Hello, my name is Tobias Heiler and I'm one of the founders of BrainBoost. In this webinar, I want to show you our flows. What does flow mean? With flows, you can start an EEG recording and then with one click, you will start a chain of several segments that will be automatically created. So for example, you start a flow that you can create yourself that records eyes closed or eyes open for 3 minutes. So let's say eyes open 3 minutes, eyes closed 3 minutes, and then even start a cognitive performance test like the CPT for a couple of minutes, then the Stroop test for a couple of minutes. We have a variety of cognitive performance tests for you in our Brain Assistant. This way you can standardize some work process like first appointment or all 3 or all 5 sessions that you want to create. More about that in our webinar. Have fun watching it.
All right, so let's start with some great news. Finally, as you guys know that have been in the last webinars, these are the devices that connect to our software, and we have a growing family. We have 3 new players. So we have the CGX connected to the CAM20 to our software. We have this is American company. Then we have Austrian company Inside Instruments, the Neuromaster, and then we have ThoughtTech, the Procom that is working with our software. So if you have one of those devices or all 3, or if you have new suggestions who we should reach out to, please let me know. And so of course, obviously with some of them, for example, ThoughtTech, we're talking to them. So if you want to see our families growing, so we're working on many different levels. Today, the webinar is about more functions, tests, and analysis. And I can tell you up front, there's way more tests and analysis we can show you. But today I picked something that might be very handy for many people. So as always, for test and analysis, with our Nexus Mind Media devices, we don't get a raw EEG. So you need to use our BrainBoost protocols that are scaled 0 to 10. So we get at least 4 amplitudes like theta, alpha, high beta, low beta, and have at least those to analyze. But I will show you we have more than just EEG data today. But with all other devices, we get complete access to the raw EEG, which is very sweet, so we can do whatever we want in our software. I think all people of you have been using our software, some for a longer time, and so this is going to be very cool what I'm going to show you today. Now, it does not always have to be an EEG or just an EEG, and this is what this is about today. Of course, I always like to have an EEG since this is what we do all day long. So what I'm going to present to you today is NAPS, so cognitive tests. NAPS stands for nested applications. So an application that is within our Brain Assistant. It's an internal name. It's not very elegant. So cognitive tests, it's fine. Let's go. Let's dive right into it. So what you guys can do with your Brain Assistant software, you start it. So I selected my trainer. I selected my client. So this is my main menu. I have an EEG running in the background. So let's assume you put a person on an EEG. When you use BioTrace, you obviously need to select the BioTrace protocol by BrainBoost, so we have the right scale, and then go on training session. Now, if you don't, like you have a Neurobit Optima, an ANT Neuro, or ThoughtTech or whatever, go on recording session. And this is, as you know, like you would record in your first assessment, you would record a regular session, right? So you would go start session, you would select the correct cap, whatever, and then check your raw signal. This is now in the background running an EEG and say start. Now from a first assessment, this can also be 2 or 4 channels depending on the hardware used. You would say start segment and then say eyes open, eyes closed, and so on. Now many people say, can't this be automated? Can't there be like one button and then it records 3 minutes eyes open, then automatically says close your eyes, 3 minutes eyes closed. So kind of have that procedure. And you know what? We hear you guys. Yes, we have that. And it's a tiny button here, top right, and it says start new flow. Now it kind of looks hidden, so we might make it more prominent. And this is what I'm going to talk about today, the so-called flows. Let's click on that. There's a couple in here. You can create your own flow. It kind of looks complicated. It kind of is if you want it to be complicated, but I will come to that part. And let's see. Here I prepared a short little flow and it says eyes open, eyes closed, 5 tests. So I will present you some tests, and eyes closed, short, and it's in English. So let's start what this flow is about. So when I press that, start, this is now what you see, info for the first measurement, blah, blah, blah. This is a client screen, okay? So usually, as you know, we have this one on our screen, and you see once I started, it already started a segment automatically. It says info, it says EO, eyes open, intro. So now with every single step, I will show you later on, what I go through in this flow, it will automatically start a new segment, so I can later on analyze the EEG, and I can also analyze a couple of other things. These are these so-called tests. So this now I'm going to pull over to my screen, okay? And I'm going to show you what the client sees. So this is what the client sees. And the bottom right, you see A for next. And this A might look familiar to some people, and it is, look in the camera, what I'm showing you, an Xbox controller. So all you need to do so far is just put some electrodes on some a client's head, and then turn on your Xbox controller and use an original Xbox controller, because then all the buttons are the correct ones. And then put this in your client's hand. And now it's very self-explanatory. Of course, you can change this text, etc. You can customize everything. And this now says, okay, the next 3 minutes. So we're going to go through this flow now. You need to sit still and keep your eyes open. Now, what I'm going to do is I press A and hold it for 2 seconds. I'm pressing it right now. Zoop. Now it makes a sound. You don't hear that sound, but it makes that sound. So it makes ding. Now his eyes open. Please keep your eyes open. And here, bottom right, you see a countdown. It's not 3 minutes, because we're not, sitting here 3 minutes running a playback EEG. And so what I'm going to drag over now is what I see as a client. You see here, eyes open. Now those couple of seconds are almost over. I'm not pressing anything. You see, intervention. This was the little ding you didn't hear. And now it started info, intro, eyes closed. So here you see everything is documented automatically, even those tiny little 1 second ding sounds. So why do we have those sounds? You can delete those, but I need them so the client also knows, once I hear that sound, the measurement is over, they maybe want to stretch. So I kind of have them all, also, ready for what's going to happen or what is happening now. So yeah, I never lose control and they turn their heads, create artifacts, etc. So I didn't press anything, just A from the view of a client. So this is pretty sweet. So let's see what's going to happen next here. It says, nice job. Next, we repeat this with eyes closed. So I need to press A. Now there's a sound. Now there's a countdown, eyes closed. What you can always do is you can also, as a therapist, click here on this flow and say next. Now you see, we skipped, we heard this little sound. And now this is what I'm going to show you next. So you can also, when you restart a flow and you say, I'm not going to wait 3 minutes for eyes open, eyes closed again. I just want to get through to these tests I'm going to show you. Then you can also skip something here next. But I want to show you those tests now, because some people say, I don't know, maybe I have a device where I don't feel like I want to necessarily rely too much on EEG. I need other tests. And this is what we hear a lot, that people say, don't you have those reaction tests or crazy other tests? So some tests might look familiar that you can use in our software. So here, the first one, the Corsi block tapping. I don't know if you know that test. Here's an introduction, what you need to do. For all people that, or maybe Corsi is different, in a different name, is a test where you need to remember cubes. So we're going to see some blocks now, and for a very short amount of time, they're going to be lighted up yellow, and I need to remember them. So let's press A, pay attention, This one was yellow, and this one was yellow. You can use your mouse, but I like giving a person, a client, just this Xbox controller and say, you read everything, we're not talking, do your thing. So now with this D-pad next to this little stick, you can press right, navigate to it, press X. I selected it, and I think it was this one, X. And when I think I'm done, I press, as it says here, indicates here, the Y button on my Xbox controller. It was correct. So next round is 3. 1, 2, 3. So I need to click it in the correct order. So let's say we make a mistake. So I forget the third one, press Y. I forgot the third one. So in this test, you have, it's about short-term memory, and you have two strikes. So let's say I press just this one and Y again, then we are done. Next is the CPT test. This is pretty famous. Bottom right, you see a timer. I will come to that. I just put a timer in here. So in the webinar, I don't sit here for, you know, more than an hour doing all those tests. So you can decide, should the test be timed, or is there an automatic end to it? I will say how long each test goes at the end of the webinar. So this is CPT, I press A, and only when there's a circle, like right now, here, no. Only when the circle pops up, I'm allowed to press X. So it's a reaction test, and also don't make mistakes, don't press X when there's a square. And I will come to the analysis part later on. So I'm pressing, you know, sometimes I'm failing, sometimes I'm not, on purpose, of course. I'm genius in this test. So a couple of seconds left, and then let's go to the next step. The next test is so-called finger tapping test. By the way, one thing, this is all in English. So we have translations of the BrainAssistant. So if you, there's no German person in this call, obviously, but if you change the language of the BrainAssistant to German, this also will automatically turn into German. I don't know about the other languages. We have many different languages in this call here. So finger tapping test is easy. You have your right hand and you press A to start a countdown, and if the countdown is down, you have 10 seconds to press as fast as you can with your right hand the X button, as fast as you can, as many times. And this goes for 3 turns, your right hand. See, now next turn, 3 times, 10 seconds, your right hand, can be any, it can be any finger, and then the same goes with the left hand, okay? 3 times right hand for 10 seconds, 3 times left hand for 10 seconds. You can lay down your X controller and then use, for example, tipping finger on the X and tipping finger on the right. Now, count from is a math task. So let's press A, and you have 300 minus 7. And then also with your Xbox controller, you can select which answer is correct, and then press A. Okay, now you need to remember which is correct. So let's say this was correct. Then you get some help. So this is correct. Now I need to remember, what was the last one? This one. As soon as you fail, then it gives you help again. So best case is you never see the math task here in the top. It's just, it goes on and on and on, you remember, and you get it through quickly. It's a math task. Stroop test is pretty famous, I think. So Stroop task has different, 3 different forms. It's about color. So let's press start. So here at the top, I see a word. It says yellow, but it's written in green. I always need to pay attention for the color. So now I would have here, this is my Xbox controller. So on the D-pad, this part on the controller, I need to press down to say green. Now it says chair, a neutral word written in blue. Always pay attention to the color. So left. Now right. Now it says red, but written in blue. So I need to press blue. Car, mouse, so but yellow, yellow. Now it says blue in blue, which is easier to identify, and so on. We will check out later my results. So these were 5 tests. I'm gonna go through them one more time. Now at the end it says done. You did it. Thanks for participating. You could now say, nice job. Please close your eyes when you hear the signal sound and keep them closed for 2 more minutes. So you maybe after you have the stressful event, you then do a nice close part again and take a look at the EEG. Let's press next, 2 seconds, and then it says done. Then you stand up, you take the Xbox controller from your client. Of course, you don't always have to do all 5 tests. You don't have to do eyes open. It's just one flow I created to show you all those tests. Close. And now we see here, we have everything documented automatically, even here at the end. So everything is documented. Let's say finish and save session. Okay. And as you're used to it, like from the last webinar, you just click on the client now, and here we see recording session. This was yesterday, my German webinar. Let's say show details. And now we have all these segments. We can do whatever we like. We can go on, for example, EEG statistics could be an FFT analysis. We can go on just statistics. So statistics, and here, if you have BioTrace, we cannot take a look at the raw EEG data, but still, stay with me, we can analyze those tests, but because upfront, we did reaction tests, for example, memory tasks, and these, it makes sense, or it's nice to see how did the brain behave while doing that. So from an EEG standpoint, meaning the brain, but also it's nice to see the results without any EEG. So this is also cool for all users that have a Nexus or BioTrace and say, I don't know, I wish I could see the raw EG, of course. But here, for example, in statistics, I see these segments. They're rather short, so they look a little crazy. But you can now say, okay, how was my intro and how was my, these are too short to now make really sense, right? But you can now take a look at, okay, how was the blocking, the block Corsi or the tapping test, etc. These are too short, so the names kind of overlap, but I think you get the idea. So you could also say add to report. You're used to that from the last webinar. We can check out the EG data, and here you see everything is documented. Down here, we see those segments. So on the left side, I can say, let's jump to eyes closed here. Check. Now I see eyes closed. In the bottom here, I just hover with my mouse and then use the mouse wheel to change the scale. I'm just scrolling with my mouse wheel, and now with my mouse wheel, I can also move forward. And here we see, this was the block tapping test, etc. So this is pretty sweet. So we can really see at first glance, what do we see at what segment. This person has a lot of slow waves, right? We can also add this to a report if we want to. And one function, we have automatic artifact marking, and I will go over this another time, but you can basically mark automatically all the artifacts and then reject it when you do create a brain map. Of course, we can create brain maps. So I can say add, say, I wish I would know how it was when we did the Corsi block tapping test. Let's say relative power. So, for each part we can analyze now. I'm just doing random stuff here now, right? Saying, okay, let's add this to a report. But now here comes the fun part. So we added stuff to a report, and let's go. We want to take a look at how I performed in those tests, right? So we see here what we selected already, add to report, press PDF preview. So we have this, these lines from before. We see here the EG part. We see this brain map. Of course, here plus we can add basic session and client info, say PDF preview. So we have some client info. But now what we want to see finally, so I'm just adding this on top, plus, and we say NAPs, nested applications. And here we can now select what do I want to display. We had, and now here you see I need to remember stuff. So we had the Stroop, we had all of them, right? So we can just do count from. This was a 300 minus 7. We had the CPT test. We had the Corsi. This was the first one though, but it doesn't matter. And then finger tapping test. And now let's press PDF preview. Now also here, finger tapping, you have a description, what you had to do, how the rules are. When you have the German version, you switch to German. This is automatically being translated to German. With the other languages like Hungarian or Saudi Arabic, I don't name me on that, but I know German and English, we have it for sure. Instructions. And then we have Z-scores, okay? So Z-scores from the tests, because there's a ton of research on those tests. Very important at this point, whenever you watch the recorded webinar, this might have changed, but all Z-scores are about grown-ups, okay? So when you do reaction tests with kids, of course, there's going to be different values. So we took a look at a lot of papers, and we took values about grown-ups. So these Z-scores are for grown-ups only, okay? We will add kids. If you have nice research on one of those 5 tests, and you say, hey, this is a nice research paper or meta-analysis, please, give it to us, and we can implement it. So whenever you add a client, in the beginning, make sure you add the date of birth. So here what we see is, this was finger tapping, right? The total presses I had on the right hand, left hand, I didn't do anything, right? I skipped, or the timer was over, so -5 standard deviations. Of course, I pressed 0 times. Right hand, still green indicates this is kind of good in the standard deviation. Red indicates no, you're out of it. This is not good. And then we can see the Corsi block tapping. So we had to remember the blocks, and I went to stage 2 because when there were 3 yellow blocks lighted up, I failed. This is not very good. -2.8 standard deviations away. This is bad. Here we see some details. Then we had the basics, the CPT test, exactly. So you see the omission error and the commission error and the reaction time. So here you have some more details, which is also pretty cool. So basically, like with also, focus problems, etc. But you can do this with any person. Then calculation, of course, here count from, so the 300 minus 7, there's no real standard numbers for that. There's no real standard deviations, so no z-scores, just the total time, how long it took you, wrong, correct, total. And then we have the Stroop test with the colors, right? Here it says table, chair, etc. And here, of course, we can also see the reaction time was poor. And so it took way too long because I talked so much to you guys to react. Correct. Oh, it was kind of nice. I had some good results here. And of course, it is congruent, neutral, or incongruent, right? Congruent means the word blue is also written in blue. Then there's neutral, the word chair written in yellow, or incongruent. So it says there's written blue, but the color of the word blue is in red. So here, and then, yeah, you can add some heat maps, some EG, whatever. But also when you say, I don't want to add an EG, I just want to do those 5 tests, or just 3 tests, or 1 test in the beginning of a session, this is also fine. And then you can just save an open report. We can save this. And to just get you on board again. So we have those 5 tests implemented in this math task, the CPT, where you have to click when there's a circle and don't click when there's a square. Then we have the Corsi block tapping where it is yellow, 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 and you need to remember. Stroop with the colors, and the finger tapping test. I had one person today, right side was around 500 taps per minute, and the left finger was like 300, so obviously a right-handed person. So what is a flow? Because we're running towards the end already. Flow means this, how we at least define it, or what we call flow, is a sequence of EG recording. So you can do eyes open, eyes closed. You can also say, you know, watch a movie, do whatever you want, and also do tests. So it's not only in the Brain Assistant now, because we want you as therapists to have basically do any session you want and do any intervention you want and just say, what software do I use? I use Brain Assistant, of course. So whatever also we use in our software, in our practice here, we want to have in our own software, of course. So all the data is together, kept together, and you don't have 3 Excel files and a Word document, etc. So one flow could also be short, 15 minutes. So you do like anamnesis, say, hey, why are you here? What's up? Okay, here's an EG cap, eyes open 3 minutes, and you just put this Xbox controller in your client's hand, and all instructions are on the TV. And if the client says, I'm not sure, then you could help, or you could say it should be sure. It says on the board. It's also some sort of test. Maybe do just 2 tests, and then at the end, again, one eye's closed, and you can compare these. And this is 3 tests, for example, and a couple of brain maps, right? This one is 1 test. Here you see the table. This is another test. You see the table. This is a 3rd test. You see the table, and then a couple of 1 hertz spins, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. hertz. So if it 10-page report with 3 tests and maybe 1 or 2 EG segments. So it's pretty sweet to have a first assessment, and within 15 minutes you create that report rapidly. As a thank you, because I also want to give you the chance to ask questions, we give you some flows we use and I created. The first one is a short one, so we have an eyes open, 3 minutes this time, eyes closed, and we do the Corsi test, the CPT, and the Stroop test. And Stroop is also a lot of research on that. These are pretty cool tests. And then I will also give you a flow that has all 5 tests, eyes open, eyes closed, and at the end, eyes closed. I think these are also nice when people say, well, when I had a stressful event, I want to regenerate, my brain doesn't shut down or it's going crazy. So maybe prefrontal, frontal part of the brain, take a look at that. How do you do that? After this webinar, I will send you .bata files. What does that mean? You know, any file is named xyz.pdf, .docx, .whatever. And our files that our Brain Assistant can handle is called .bata. This is our own format, so we invented it. And so I will just send you 2 files, and in the main menu here, you need to press this import button. It looks less spectacular in the main menu. Here, it is import. And with this import button, when you press it, then there's an Explorer opening up, and then you can select the file. And this is pretty cool. You can also send patient information. So for example, when I say I want to send also the report I already created, all the EG file I did, just go here, export. It will export a .bata. So you can also send this to each other. So it's pretty cool. And for example, also the sound that I mentioned that you didn't hear ding in between, so people know when to open their eyes, it will be within this .bata file. That's pretty sweet. So I will send you those 2 bata files so you can play around with that. I will name them probably this, but you will receive an email with the slides, of course, as always, with the link to the YouTube video where I uploaded the recording, and of course with an invitation to the next webinar. It will, in English, be on the 18th of January. German will be one day before, so the 17th. And what will it be about? About your perfect brain assistant flow. Now, I know people say, well, you just showed me the flows. I showed you one flow with 5 tests. You can imagine in our practice, and in yours probably as well, you have a lot of things happening, a lot of standardization processes. Still, every client needs personal one-on-one, but stuff like a first anamnesis, first assessment test, it can be standardized. Or every 3 sessions, I want to do 2 tests, the Stroop test and the CPT. This can also be a very simple, flow that you say, okay, I go with a training session, so I start the ZZSMR training. So here, they will also be here in the top, and say, start recording. Then you will see here, you will see all the training bars running around. So ZZ, right? So now you would start the media center application. Here you have all the bars, but before you start anything, you can just start a flow, which can have, I don't know, 2 tests. It will here start seconds automatically. Once it's done, then you start an application. So there's a ton of different flows you can create yourself. And maybe I will also give you a sneak peek, because it's not too hard to create your own flow and say, should it start with text? Should it start with a nested application, right? So like the Stroop test. And maybe you also saw a little sneak peek. You can also show an image and record an EEG while there's an image. So you have a segment and say, take a look at this. You can also start an app, like a game of our, Focus Master, etc. Or play a video and see what happens with the brain. And here you see single choice. So maybe it's also about questionnaires we use a lot and want them also in our Brain Assistant, linked to a date, linked to a session, linked to a patient. So you see all the work we do, we want it in our software and make it as easy and as I would say ordered as possible for you to have a very nice ongoing job you can do and focus on your the best you can do for your client. Of course, welcome. Take a look at all our websites, but you know this, and yeah, start today. Let's do it. So right now there's time for questions. Maybe I already said this, but are flows available for all EMs? Yeah. If I'm using the Nexus, I can use flow, but I would be during a neurofeedback session and not EG, because I can't do it with Nexus. Hope that makes sense. Julie, yes, it makes sense. You can, so it works with all amplifiers we have, all. When you have a Nexus or a Mind Media device, okay, you need to start BioTrace and start a training. So it will not record the raw EG in our Brain Assistant because it doesn't forward it to our Brain Assistant. But so this will be gray. It will not be available when you have a BioTrace. So you need to press training session as always, and it will jump directly, not as with here, right? If you use BioTrace, it will jump directly in the training session you selected. This is how it will look like when you have BioTrace, directly. And we will not see the raw EG. This is not what you're going to see. You will only see the amplitudes. This is when you use a BioTrace. And now you can still start a flow, still do the same I did. Later, you will still have segments, etc. But when you then go in the analysis part, so you go on a client, you can see, by the way, when there's a live session, I can analyze simultaneously while there's a session, so maybe the last session. So even with the BioTrace, you will see all of this, but you will not see this, EG data, EG statistics, or create brain maps, but you will see statistics because we have the 4 amplitudes you record, right? We will have whatever you selected in BioTrace as a training protocol. We will have theta, alpha, whatever. But even though when you say, I wish I would have, or I don't, I don't care about theta or alpha, still we have results of the finger tapping test. These are Z-scores, based on the research. We will have results based on Corsi tests. So we have many people that say, you know what, I do these tests with other programs anyways, next to my neurofeedback. And now I have it all in one software. I have a date, I have a name, I have it everything linked together, and then I can do a session. So I hope this made sense. Thanks for the question. And of course, with all other amplifiers, we get the raw data. So there's not a problem. The EG will be recorded. Any Yeah, sure, of course. Any other questions? I know it was a lot of input. And also, if people, the 3 other hardware manufacturers I showed, if one of you guys have one of those or a couple of those, please reach out to me. You can email me. You can email always the info@brainboost, but I think the webinar invite was my personal email, and then we get into contact and then we will talk. So mark the date on your calendar. Next webinar is going to be about way more we can do with those flows and watch the recording, but do those tests. They're pretty cool, and they give you also a different angle. Also for some clients, they like reaction tests. They like, how am I compared to others? And you know, the Stroop test with the colors, super interesting. People love stuff like that. And we do this on a regular basis here. So we have more than just EG data. And I think this also is in the non-medical, medical field. Everywhere it's very interesting. Thank you for being with me. It's pretty cool to have you. It's in the morning in the US, and then we have people where it's dark outside and very snowy here, by the way, in Munich. So hope you also don't have too much snow, but a little bit of snow before Christmas. All right. Any questions? Last chance. Here too, yeah. Yeah, also thanks for being here, Anne. All right, then, yeah, also have great holidays and also have a nice time. And with questions, reach out and wait for the video to rewatch it. It's going to be awesome. Then have a nice day. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.